How much do construction project managers earn and what countries pay the most? In this video, we'll look at salaries in Australia, the UK, and the US, and we'll talk about what factors drive salaries. If maximizing your salary is one of your career goals, then I'll show you the different things to focus on to do this. If maximizing your salary is one of your career goals, then I'll show you the different things to focus on to ensure this happens. Now, disclaimer before we get started. These numbers are based on broad industry averages. If you have a specific job role in mind, then you're much better off going on to a website like Glassdoor and researching the specific job because you're going to get much more accurate numbers. So starting off with the different countries. So in the US, the average salary is $95,000 per year. At an entry level, it's about $65,000, but for more experienced professionals, it's between $120,000 to $150,000. In Australia, the average salary is 130,000 Australian dollars per year, which is something like 85,000 US dollars. Entry-level positions would be about 90,000 Australian dollars, when more experienced professionals would be up from $160,000. In the UK, the average salary for construction manager is 50,000 to 60,000 pounds per year, with entry-level positions starting around 35,000 pounds and more experienced professionals getting anywhere upwards from 70,000 pounds. So what about the factors that influence salaries? Well, the first one we have is regional variations. And I don't mean between countries, I mean within a country. In Australia, remote and regional work tends to pay extremely well because there's a big mining industry and there's a lot of projects in very remote areas. So they have to pay people coming from the city a huge premium to go and work in these remote locations. When in the US and the UK, it tends to be the opposite, with work in the major capital cities paying better than regional work. The industry you choose to work in also plays a big role on your salary. So for example, in Australia, renewable energy and mining, and this is partly due to the remote nature of the work, pays incredibly well, and residential construction doesn't pay nearly as well. And the final factor is whether you have a degree or certification or not. The most important decision you need to make, which will impact your earnings, is the industry you choose to work in. Now, there's two reasons why the industry matters so much. The first one is the differences in earnings between industries. But the second one is that within a particular industry, if you consistently work on a single type of project, you become an expert in your niche field, which is going to make you much more in demand than somebody who's worked on a broad range of projects and does not have particular niche experience in a field. So choosing the right industry is one of the most important career decisions you can make. Speaking generally about the industries, residential doesn't tend to pay as well because the projects are smaller. Infrastructure, big projects, renewable energy, mining, those sorts of projects tend to pay a lot more because they're a lot bigger. And often when there's booms in spending on these projects, there can be huge demand for experienced construction managers. So it very much depends on how much is being spent and how many of these projects are in the pipeline. So the next question, does a degree matter? Does a degree have an impact on your earnings? Traditionally, in high-paying job roles at big companies, there's been a requirement to have a degree. However, this is something that's shifting. I've seen a lot of people in management, senior management roles at companies who come from non-degree backgrounds. Employers tend to value practical, hands-on experience delivering a certain type of project much more than they value a degree that somebody got 10 or 15 years ago. Now, remember, these numbers are just a starting point. They're industry averages. They're not unique or specific to your circumstances. And there's a broad range of different opportunities within the construction sector. You could go and start your own business and make 10 times what these numbers are. And I know people who've done things like that. So these numbers are just broad industry averages to give you a feel for the different earnings in different job roles and different industries.